over to the Griffin Technology Center.
Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it. Well, we had so much talent here tonight, so many amazing musicians, but we definitely knew we wanted to have a chance to talk with this fella here. As they said, he took home an armful of Americana awards the other day, and he's just brought so much to this community, songwriting and band leading and collaborating and producing. Mr. Buddy Miller is here to chat a few minutes. Nice to see you, buddy.
Hey, good to see you.
When I got to town years ago, and I was trying to figure out what is Americana anyway. I think I asked Grant Alden from No Depression, what is this music? What does it mean? What does that word mean? And he said, Buddy Miller. You've got to go listen to Buddy Miller, and I did, and I've been a fan ever since. And you've had an exciting year. Let's ask about. Well, before I get into what you're going on, let me ask about your background as a lover of Tom T. Hall songs and how the song, That's How I Got to Memphis, became a favorite.
Well, like I was saying before I sang it, I got the record that it was on. I forget which record that was. I just remember the time period. It was a long time ago. I remember it was shortly after Woodstock, like I said. And actually, every Tom T record was like a big deal when they'd come. You know, it's one of those records that you'd wait for the next, you'd be anticipating the next Tom T. Hall record, because each one was so chock full of great songs, and there was actually a record that, that was saying something. The songs were really saying something, and they certainly registered with me, and that song was just the first one that did.
His way of dealing with a story and characters and situations was so much different and apart from the here's how I feel, I'm in love, I want you. And Peter talked about it as a layered kind of songwriting. How did it affect you or get you to think about writing in a different way?
Oh, it's just there weren't songs like that before, at least for me. They're great songs, but something about Tom T. Hall's songs were just so special. And I mean, That's How I Got to Memphis, or Old Dogs and Children, Watermelon Wine. So many songs just hit you in the heart, which is what a great song does.
Cool. Well, we were talking about stage about the last couple of years, and your work with Robert Plant has been exceptional, and produced a record and a big tour. How did that begin to come together? How did he find out about you? And as he's made this interesting journey into this sphere of music in Nashville, and how did it come together?
Well, I met Robert Plant, I guess, when I was playing with Emmylou Harris, and we had a gig in Dublin. He came out to it. I didn't know it, but after the gig, I heard Robert Plant's in the audience, and it was one of those theaters in Europe. They have a lot of them where there's a pub in the front. And I heard he was just hanging out in the front, and I thought, well, cool. I'll go meet Robert Plant, which is what I did, and we talked about psychedelic music from the 60s and old blues and lots of things like that. And I guess I didn't suck that night. He just kind of kept my name in the back of his head. Then when the Raising Sand tour popped up with Alison Krauss, he asked for me on guitar, and we started hanging out during that time.
And what kind of decisions did you find yourself making in a producer's role or suggestions? I mean, how do you produce Robert Plant?
You know what? I picked the band, which is just a wonderful band: Marco Giovino, Byron House, Darrell Scott, and Patty Griffin, and we just got in there and played for a while, and it just was pretty natural the way it all came together.
And this became the Band of Joy, the modern version. What's the story with there was a previous Band of Joy that Robert was involved in. What's the story there?
That was the name of his very first band that he had before the other band.
That other band,
yeah.
And given that this was his second project in that sphere after the Allison record, I mean, making the decision about the band is kind of like gets you about 90% of the way there, doesn't it? I mean, the chemistry then forms out of the individual visions coming together.
Right, we talked a lot on the phone because he wasn't around, and I kind of got the sense of what he wanted to do, and wanted to make it definitely different than that other project, the Raising Sand, and I think we did.
Right. Now, I think that your last project was written in chalk. Am I right there that that's the last record that you released?
That's the last one I made with my wife.
Right.
Then I had another one come out called the Majestic Silver Strings, which is more of a collaboration with a couple other 3 guitar players who were like good friends of mine, and I just love their playing. Mark Rebo and Bill Frisell and Greg Leese.
Yeah.
And had a lot of guest friends stop by the house. I'd make records in my house. Just have a lot of stuff set up there.
It's a famous studio now.
Well, not for my wife.
It's a glorious record, the Silver Strings record, and I was anticipating a very instrumental disc. I thought it was going to be where the guitar players really kind of do their thing, and there's a lot of wonderful singing, guest vocalists. It's a country record in really very deeply. What shaped the vision for that record? What made it turn out the way it did?
Well, I started thinking of Bill and I were going to collaborate, Bill Frisell, and then I was in the studio with sitting next to Mark Rebo for about 3 weeks working on the second, the follow-up to Raising Sand, which didn't happen, but we got to hang out a lot. And I loved his playing, and I just wanted to make a record of, out of our love for old country songs, and that's kind of where it started. And I thought at first it would be instrumental, but then we all just wanted to hear people singing them.
And these are guitar players who really are very different. Mark Rebo is kind of a postmodern. He can be very noisy, very, very avant-garde, and very unusual and angular. And Greg Leese is a steel player, a lap steel player from way back who can lay behind a vocalist and make this luscious thing happen. Bill Frisell is an amazing jazz lead guitar player, one of my favorites. And you're an aggressive guitar player. It must have been interesting kind of finding a role for all those guitar voices.
It was a great week, just hanging out in the house. We just had a great time, and every day different singers would come over, and we cut the whole thing live with us all just set up in a circle, including the singer was just 4 feet from the drums, and everything went down live. It was a blast.
Great record. What are you working on now yourself, either as an artist or a producer?
I've got something brewing with our friend Jim Lauderdale. I'm producing also, just finishing up a band called the Carolina Chocolate Drops. Their next record. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We just finished that up. It's a great record, and they're a great bunch, and great folks. So finish that up, and
that coming out this winter or spring? You know what the
I don't know
release
when
is yet?
I don't know when it's going to come out. It's done, so I'm guessing it'll be early next year.
Oh, superb. They have caught fire in a way that just has been gratifying to me. I didn't think that a band with that string, sort of string band vision could just become a big, big deal, but they really are.
Yeah, and they really are great. They're
exceptional.
great. And working on a few other things that hopefully will figure themselves out.
Great. Well, we'll be watching and listening, buddy. We appreciate everything you do. Buddy Miller, folks.
Thanks.
We're very lucky people here at Music City Roots. Thank you, sir.